right. We are recording this, so if folks are coming in late, they can catch up with it later on. So, welcome everyone. I am Natalie Sampson. I am one of the leaders of the Community Engagement Core at the Michigan Center on Life Stage Environmental Exposures and Disease, or what we call the M-LEEAD Center at the School of Public Health in Ann Arbor. I am super excited today to have some speakers who are also my friends, some guests with us. We're going to be talking about reimagining schoolyards for outdoor learning and public health. And I think my dogs are joining this conversation, so I apologize if you can hear them. I just want to share a little bit about the M-LEEAD Center and the Community Engagement Core in particular. This work is really guided by our stakeholder advocacy board. So these are community partners at Eastside Community Network, Detroiters Working for Environmental Justice, the state and local health departments, Sierra Club, We the People, Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation, Ecology Center, Chas Center, Green Door Initiative. Don't want to leave anyone out because the work we do is really a vision of all of these folks. And so we'll share in the chat. We've done a lot of these researchers in residence webinars in the past on a variety of topics, but I want to keep us moving and get us along to today's panelists and our topic. And so with that, we have with us friends from the Children's in Nature Network, Priya Cook, who is the director of Green Schoolyards and Communities, who's going to kick us off. And then following that, we'll have some of my favorite humans in the world, Susan and Eman and Jill, who do this work in South Dearborn and on the ground and have connected with Priya over the years to make it happen. So we're going to hear particularly the story of the work that they've been doing in a team with community and learn from them all. So with that, Priya, I'm going to hand it right to you and let you get us going. Please feel free, others joining us, to use the chat. I'll track on those questions and answer. We'll try to get to the Q&A and leave a good 5 or 10 minutes at the end so that we can get to some of those. So feel free to drop questions as they come up for you. Okay, now Priya.
Thank you, Natalie. And it's good to be here with all of you and to see so many of my dear old friends in Dearborn here as well. Again, I'm Priya Cook. I also wanted to say thank you to Meredith, who's being our slide maven. We could not do this without her. She's got us all in order. So yeah, again, I'm Priya Cook. I work at the Children in Nature Network, and I'm the director of Green Schoolyards and Communities there. And I'm joining you today from my home in Washington, D.C., which is the ancestral and current lands of the Piscataway. And spring has sprung here. It's quite lovely, and pollen-filled air abounds. So I will just start by, once those slides pop up, I'll tell you in the meantime just a little bit about the Children in Nature Network, in case you aren't familiar with us. And Meredith, if you're able to go to the beginning of the presentation, that would be great. But the Children in Nature Network is a national nonprofit. We're small. We've got about 20 staff members. We're all over the country. And our mission is to increase equitable access to nature everywhere kids live, learn, and play. And there are 3 pillars. Meredith, are you able to go to the beginning? And feel free, if there's an issue with the slides and I can help with, let me know. I think this looks like it might be the end of the presentation. Thank you. And not to worry, because we're still in introduction mode. So if you can go to that second slide, that'd be great. So there are kind of 3 pillars to the work that Children in Nature Network does around that mission. So the first is fostering belief, and I would say evidence also. When Richard Louv, our co-founder, wrote his book, Last Child in the Woods, there was only a few hundred pieces of peer-reviewed scientific journal articles around the benefits of nature for kids. And now there's, in our online research library, over 1,400 and counting, and our research team can barely keep up. But it's a terrific resource. It's very searchable. It brings the evidence base out from behind a paywall, and you can search by age and type of nature connection, and you can search by types of benefits that kids experience. So I really urge you all to use that. I do it a lot. And a second piece of our work is growing the movement. So I often say that Children in Nature Network has the privilege of being a mirror and a spotlight and a bullhorn, but really the work we do is because of the network and because of people like Jill and Sue and Eman and others out there in the field doing the really good things. And our work is just hopefully to provide mutual support, provide peer learning spaces, so that all the good things keep cross-pollinating and spreading. And I get to work most of all in this third area of changing core systems. And so we support communities with technical assistance and peer learning around systems change to increase equitable access to nature in kids' daily lives. So looking at the systems of the built environment or education and elsewhere that kind of dictate the spaces we move through each and every regular day. And that is where I get to focus. You can go to the next slide, Meredith, thanks, on schoolyards. So here is a sadly very typical looking schoolyard, one of the 2 million acres of public land that sit under our noses, pretty well distributed through our communities. And unfortunately, this is what a lot of them look like: giant swath of asphalt that don't do a whole lot in terms of services to an ecosystem or to the kids and educators who learn and play there. In many cases, they come with pretty extreme maintenance costs. They might exacerbate urban heat and flooding. And there's just a lot of missed opportunities in a space like this. So in the next slide, there's also at times, instances of harmful materials that either through heat or other toxins are, in addition to not providing a lot of those great affordances and benefits, they might actually be doing harm in terms of kids and community health. On the next slide, you'll see a just reference to a study done by other network colleagues in Austin who also have worked on green schoolyards and did some work looking at kids' moderate to vigorous physical activity and the implications for having trees and how that really promotes physical activity and play, and how urban extreme heat can tamp down some of that really healthy activity that kids need to thrive. And so, what are some alternatives to this? On the next slide, we would love to transform spaces that are just big swaths of asphalt into things that can achieve a lot of the benefits we've been talking about in terms of learning, play, community cohesion, mental, physical health. So on the next slide, we offer an alternative vision, really. And this comes, again, from the network of many, many communities who've been working on this, in some places for decades. Green schoolyards have certainly been around a long time, but this is almost every corner of the country covered here. Some examples from Boston, the West Coast in California, Texas, nearby in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I know our Dearborn colleagues, I've been on this schoolyard with you before, and they can do so much more, these schoolyards. And so in the next slide, I'll share Children and Nature Network's definition of a green schoolyard, which is a nature-rich place on the school grounds that is designed with and by and for the children, the families, the educators, and the neighbors who live there, and can really benefit from that space. And ideally, those spaces are open out of school time, because if you're going to invest all that money and time and care into a place, you can increase your return on that investment by having even more people benefit from it. And also, safety is something that so many communities care about and have concern for. And a safe space is one that's well used and well loved by the community. And so, we always look and hope that those school grounds are open outside of school time. On the next slide, I'll share a little bit about just a summary of the many benefits. I've named some of these already, but the research, again, the research library is a great place to go look for all the articles that contribute to this benefits wheel. But we often think about these areas of health and wellness, community, environment, and learning. And hopefully you're able to read some of the fine print there. But I would say in the time since this wheel was created, I would even add some areas that aren't present here under health, including nutrition. A lot of green schoolyard programs do have really strong farm to school programs where the produce is coming right from the school ground and making it into the school cafeteria. And there's a lot of great evidence around kids being more enthusiastic about eating fruits and vegetables when they had a role in growing it. And so that's something that should certainly go on here as we revise this, and as well as growing body of research around healthy microbiome, like healthy exposure to bacteria. So there's even studies looking at kids attending an urban daycare where they had a native forest floor planted and finding that they had a stronger immune system and a healthier microbiome than those who had gravel yards to play in, even up to 2 years later in their gut and their skin. So there's a lot of implications for being in contact with organic matter. But a lot of reasons why partners who work together on green schoolyards come to the table. If you're a stormwater agency leader, you might be coming to work on green schoolyards because you care about mitigating stormwater and combined sewer overflow in your community. And that might be the piece here that really matters to you. And as an educator, it might be that you're really focused on social emotional learning or mental health or academic achievement. Those might be the reasons. But there's a lot of ways in, and most agencies and organizations, who are focused in any way on children or environment are likely to find that there's a way to achieve some of their objectives working in these really cherished community spaces. Next slide, please. One of the things that's on there is about play, and I'll spend a moment on that. Just play is often undervalued as what it is, which is the way kids learn, in addition to all the other healthy things that are happening when they learn. And so I just wanted to talk for a second about the ways that natural areas can really promote child-directed free play that is imaginative and constructive. It's sensory rich and cooperative. So here you see a few different types of play. One that also is often undervalued is solitary play. Kids are in large groups all day at school, and many of us can probably relate. It is really lovely to have a moment of quiet, like areas, here, this bamboo grove, areas under bushes or nooks that allow kids to engage in alone time and contemplation and just, shedding stress can be a beautiful additions in a school space. Constructive play, so building things out of natural materials, helps kids learn a lot of hands-on skills and fine and motor skills. Dramatic and cooperative play is really possible with loose parts such as sticks and stones and pine cones, and in one case here, lots of elm seeds. And those things are seasonal, and that keeps them novel and interesting and ever-changing, and really engage the imagination. Exploratory play, letting kids have opportunities to explore, take beneficial risk, like actually understand, how high can I jump from something? Like, what is my own risk tolerance? Like, how do I develop the balance to try these new challenges? A lot of structures with natural materials, like these logs, give kids a lot of those options. And then, of course, that heavy, gross motor, locomotor play. You see some of that happening here too, carrying really big items, the cooperative, dramatic play that happens. And all of these kinds of things have been shown to occur more when there are these natural play features, and many of them. You can go to the next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about one more thing, because all those benefits really matter for mission-focused agencies and nonprofits. But at the end of the day, money and economic value really matters too. And so I didn't want to be here today without sharing a little bit about a study that was recently done based on the very excellent work that happened in Denver public schools, which from 2000 to 2012, DPS converted 99 elementary schoolyards encompassing about 306 acres to what they called their learning landscapes, which is their green schoolyards program. It used natural elements, spaces for physical activity was a priority for them, and creative play and educational elements. It did still include things like grass playing fields, vegetable gardens, and habitat areas. And an average transformation was just over 3 acres and cost an average of $630,000 at the time. And we were really fortunate to be able to commission research on that program, really thanks to the strong leadership of the neighborhoods, the schools, university partners, and the school district. And that was to take a look at the economic impact of green schoolyards in this particular program. So there was first a technical study and then a second report by former Federal Reserve economist Rob Grunwald. And it took advantage of the rolling implementation of those schoolyards to look at trends from before implementation and to past implementation. And that quasi-experimental design allowed for causal claims for some of the outcomes instead of just correlational evidence. So the next slide talks about a little, it just provides a QR code. So if you're interested in hearing more, I definitely encourage you to scan that. It'll take you to the link where you can see the full report, the executive summary, and actually a webinar that includes some other Dearborn colleagues, the community development lead, economic development lead for the city. Basically, in the next, you can go ahead to the next slide. What Rob found was that green schoolyards create a lot of benefit across many areas, and the research shows that as well. And he specifically took a look at the areas where there is a methodology for quantifying the economic value. So again, this is a look at one district, at the available evidence in that district, and then also at the evidence around the specific things that have a translatable economic value. So again, it's fairly narrow and conservative in that regard. And he explored really three main areas of benefit. So children's learning and health, environmental sustainability, and community development health. And because all of these things listed here, which I won't read to you, but you can see in the report, were documented in that Denver program, even though we don't expect green schoolyards to completely solve all issues in education and environment and community development, together, all the benefits accruing across all these different areas produce, a big value to society, and essentially can, demonstrate that there was a really solid case that for every dollar invested in these school grounds, upwards of $3 or more is coming back to the community in terms of improvements across all of these areas. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. And I kind of just covered this, so we can skip ahead. So now I'll kind of pivot just to talk a little bit about how we support communities in building green schoolyard programs. So there are many, many flavors and varieties and even names for green schoolyard programs. We're fortunate to work be part of a huge field with many, many partners. Some organizations call them living schoolyards, some call them community schoolyards, and there are many ways to bring those to reality. In our work, we've really focused on district-wide, equity-based, and open access programs because Children in Nature Network really wants to support lasting systems change, where we change the status quo and that we don't only rely on having stellar, visionary champions that happen to be at a school, because people retire, they move on from their jobs, volunteers, life happens and things change. And so having really strong assessment, funding, programming, design, and just institutional knowledge about those transformations is really important. And so you can see here a little bit of the process that we promote and try and support communities to implement. And Dearborn can definitely talk a lot more in detail about that. But we'll go ahead to the next slide and just name that some of the key, levers for thinking about lasting systems change include at the beginning, doing that landscape scan and looking at what are the assets, what are the barriers that might interact with a green schoolyards program. And these are some of the policies and funding streams that, you might not right off the top of your head think, like a walkability policy really has an implication for green schoolyards. But when you're trying to ensure community access, it does. Or thinking about joint use, how do cities and school districts work together to pool resources for maintenance, but also to transform spaces or program spaces. And then certainly a number of funding sources that many programs have used are listed here, everything from green stormwater infrastructure funding to kind of local bonds and philanthropic funding. So not an exhaustive list, but some of the really important ones. Next slide, please. Similarly, going back to that benefits wheel, the partners for green schoolyards are not, school districts, principals, district leaders teachers are asked to do so much by all of us. And one really important message I'd want everyone to leave with is that this is not about asking school districts to do one more thing. School districts and educators are doing a lot, but this is about recognizing the community hubs that our schools are, and that together there's a lot of the mission-focused work that different agencies and organizations do can be achieved by collaboration and partnership across agencies. So these, again, not an exhaustive list, but these are types of partners that we've seen play a really big role in successful programs. Some are city agencies, some are county, some are school district. And also important to name that within the school district, this is not just a facilities conversation. It's curriculum, it can be mental health, it's your PE folks, it's your out of school time folks. There's a lot that goes into a really robust program, and a lot of different agencies that have an interest. Hi, Jane, I see you in the chat. Lots of folks here on the call who could speak to this. So I will go ahead to the next slide and just quickly try and race through a few case studies from around the country, just to give you a taste of some of the places that have done district-wide programs. So here, Trust for Public Land in New York City began transforming schoolyards back in 1996, and one of their key goals was park walkability. So they recognize, New York City's pretty built out. There's not a place to just go create a new park, but look, there's all this land sitting right under our noses, and if those can be designed and serve as community parks, that fulfills some really important objectives. And so after they passed their green infrastructure plan, the program evolved to include stormwater capture and receives funding to create more green components from the Department of Water. And they've already transformed over 200 schoolyards. Next slide, please. In Chicago, Space to Grow focuses on low-income communities of color to transform underutilized schoolyards into inspired playgrounds for kids and vital outdoor places for the whole neighborhood to get together and reconnect with nature. They replace a lot of asphalt with landscaping that absorbs rainwater there and helps to address neighborhood flooding. You can go to the next slide, please. The partners there include Chicago Public Schools, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, if I got that right, the City Department of Water, and the Healthy Schools Campaign, and several other community partners. And they've already transformed over 34 schoolyards, and they're working on their next round now. The water agencies, the school district, are really the capital partners, and they pay for the design and installation of the schoolyards, whereas Healthy School Campaign and Open Lands are kind of the facilitating partners, and they help to fundraise to cover non-construction costs, like things like training and support for schools, community workshops, evaluation, program management, all those things that are also really important. Next slide, please. We'll just go ahead one more. I love to keep talking about Chicago, but I want to be mindful of time so you can hear from Dearborn. This is an example in San Francisco. Again, I'm trying to show a variety of approaches that communities have used. In San Francisco, education outside brought hands-on experiential science and environmental education, so that was a priority, to every San Francisco Unified School District elementary school student as part of the regular school day throughout the year. That involved helping with staffing too, and having programmatic support. And so from 2001 to 2011, they secured nearly $14 million in city bond funding to design and construct those at 84 public schools. And then next slide, please. Atlanta Community School Parks, they're peers of Dearborn in our last Green Schoolyards cohort. And in 2023, partners at Parks and Recreation, Watershed, Atlanta Public Schools, and several nonprofit partners helped to leverage $1 million in philanthropic matching funding to catalyze another $1 million in public funds and investments. So those dollars came from the school district and the Parks Department and Watershed, and was used to transform their first round of 6 Atlanta community school parks in 2024. Well, it's in the school year, actually. They're still wrapping those up. And they used a equity assessment process to identify those priority campuses. And then the last example I will share, I'm going to have to skip one, but that's fine. I'm going to go nearby to Grand Rapids because this is Michigan after all, and we want to go ahead to the next slide and just name that team got started during mayoral transition, and Mayor Bliss and the superintendent at the time really had a great relationship and partnered to launch a Green Schoolyards program. You can go to the next slide, Meredith. They received technical assistance and worked to create a shared city and school district vision that all kids deserve safe access to the outdoors. In 2013, the residents passed a dedicated tax fund to fund capital investment projects to build city parks, became permanent in 2019, and now helps fund investment in park activation and recreation. And they used in the first couple of years, I think a $1.2 million initiative. The Wegge Foundation awarded a 3-year grant to Grand Rapids Public Schools, and then the city put in money from their Parks and Recreation millage, and also the city's Department of Environmental Services contributed a lot in terms of stormwater management and wetland play. And so you have other neighbors in Michigan also doing great things on their schoolyards. And with that, I think I would love to talk about Milwaukee as well. They're another terrific example, but I'm going to leave it with the Michigan example and make sure I pass it off so you can hear from the stellar Dearborn team here.
Thank you, Priya. All right, as Meredith gets the slides up, we'll hand it off to Sue and Eman and Jill as our supporting team member to tell the story of Salina. Those pictures sort of say it all, though. Thank you, Priya.
Yeah, they really do. And Priya, you are a fun act to follow because I will tell you, I continually learn from you. And I guess this is what we want to say to the team is when we began this journey, I don't know, 5 years ago or more, to be truthfully honest, we had a vision of what we wanted. We just didn't know how to do it. And so when Jill found this grant, we said, yes, we're going to apply for it, not knowing it was a leap of faith that this is what we wanted, but we didn't know what it was going to entail and how you were going to help us in this journey. And let me tell you, that is my best advice for everybody is fall into it and leap into it, because when you look at the whole picture, it seems so overwhelming. But what you did and Cities Connecting Children to Nature is you gave us the map and connected us with so many people that we didn't even know existed. And so you start with your vision and then you just begin and things will come because you start talking to other people. And at first we thought, I don't know how we're ever going to make this happen. What are we going to be able to do? And where we are now is beyond our expectation. And it is because of the guidance and the inspiration that we get from where this is happening with cities across the nation. And it is not just and we'll talk a little bit more about the partnerships that we have with the cities and the universities, but there are so many people that once we bring them to our school and once we talk about what we want, this really is at the forefront of everybody's mind. I mean, you cannot listen to news or podcasts that aren't talking about real great concerns we have about what's happening to childhood across this country. And the overarching goal is bringing that childhood back outdoors while we educate parents on why they need to have it. Not just parents, but educators, school leaders, business leaders too, on why this is important. Your research that you have given us is just such a good foundation and a framework for us to be able to go and say, this is what we need, and this is why we need it. And this is just built upon all the time. So as soon as the slide is up, we're going to show you a video that talks about our why and where we're at and why this is just so near and dear to our hearts. So Dearborn is a real special community. We are a community of immigrants and newcomers. And it's been over 100 years that we are surrounded by this huge factory, probably one of the biggest industrial parks in the nation. And so people came from all over the world for the promise of a better life in the US and for jobs and things like that. And so it is a really, really special place. I'm so sorry, excuse me. It is a very special place and has so much to offer. With that offering, however, there are challenges, and you will see with our story about what happens. And Eman, if you want to just share your story for a minute, I think that's really important while we're waiting for the slide.
Yeah, as Sue mentioned, well, greetings, everyone. As Sue mentioned, it is a really special community. As someone who was born and raised in this community, it really takes a village, truly. And I always like to compare it to a seed. We had a seed, we had a vision, and there's so many people that took, a part of the seed, watering it, caring for it, and really helping us grow our vision and mission on what we have today and what's continuing to happen in terms of expansions with green spaces. So shout out to Priya, the University of Michigan, led by Natalie, Dr. Chochol, Sue Stanley. I mean, it takes people who really have a special interest, right? And I'm so glad that Sue and I have this similar visions on what we want to create in our spaces. And it really takes special staff members to come together, community members, as Priya mentioned, nonprofits, corporations, businesses, neighbors who really put this vision to life for all of us. We couldn't have done it without the team. And like Sue has mentioned, we are an industrial island surrounded 360 by industry, corporations, so lots of pollution. But with our new city administration, they have been so supportive in tackling that and really, just supporting us with grants and anything that we really wanted to help enrich our spaces. So thank you.
We can go to the next slide because this is going to tell our why. And this is what Eman and I were talking about, and also with Jill, that it is the benefits of nature. And you would click on this video. It does show the story. This video was created by one of the newcomers that was in 8th grade at Eman school. Just to do a frame of reference, we're a K through 8.
Before you start the video, a lot of times I hear, well, why can't the residents just move out? Because of the pollution, because of the location of, being located in some of the worst, zip codes in the state of Michigan in terms of air pollution. Well, why can't they just leave? Where there's such a strong sense of community, people want to live here. People feel safe here. There's the strong culture, a strong sense of just security, and they love knowing who the neighbors are. And it's truly a special place to be, not just to live, but also to work. So what makes the South End so special is not only the residents, but the people that work in this area, and also our advocates. There's so many people who care about this area and do so much good in this area, and we can't thank them enough. So as Sue mentioned, this video was created by one of the newcomer students here at Salina Intermediate, and it really wasn't really to showcase like where the school is located and how it's run by pollution, but it was more like, hey, this is my school, and I really want to show it off. And then when we looked at it, we're like, wow. I mean, it really kind of put things in perspective on the location of the school, surrounded by industry and being, like I mentioned, in an industrial island. So go ahead and play that. Swing this line in the center and then Salina Intermediate in the center, the big brown building, and then right across to the right is Salina Elementary, the K-3 building. And you can see the smokestacks in the background, the steel mill. On the west side of the school, on the south side of the school, you have the refineries, the oil refineries. On the north side of the school, we have a lot of the trucking companies, scrap yards. And to the east of the school, we have more trucking companies that remove the sludge from the factories and dispose of it. So, but nonetheless, you know, we're not using that as an excuse. We got to continue to keep, as Priya mentioned, all the benefits, the great benefits of why humans need to be outdoors more, not just children. And, you know, really utilizing the spaces, the school spaces. And again, as I mentioned before, the partnership with the city, because ultimately residents are, you know, a lot of mothers would bring their children here to play, a lot of families. If I were to leave here at 6 or 7 p.m., you'll see a lot of the families out there having picnics outside, utilizing the school spaces. So this is where the city and the school partnership comes in, and, you know, investing in both.
And we can advance to the next couple of slides, because Priya so eloquently talked about all of this. And so we're going to tell what we've seen. And these are going to be anecdotal stories then. And she's got the great research. But talking about getting our kids outside, the teachers can see it. When they take those children outside for learning, there are less squiggles. They are more focused. They're more excited. They're more engaged in what it is that they're learning. And it really is real world learning. It's joyful learning. So many wonderful things. So let's go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so this picture says it all. This is a small part, but no pun intended, really became our seed for how we knew we wanted to make it even bigger. We have school gardens in both of our buildings, and they are active, and they are a sense of joy for all of our children. And so actually, we just woke up our garden last week. We've started with lettuce, and it's just been a wonderful, wonderful thing for us to have. And really, when we began this garden, we had to do a lot of education because parents were worried. Because of the pollution, they were worried about how safe are the crops to eat. So through this journey, the communication and the discussion with community members has been wonderful. Kids are taking what they've learned into the garden back into their homes and doing them themselves. All right, so next slide, please. Okay, and the partnerships, as Priya mentioned, they're so essential. And once you start talking, I mean, you think about who can we engage? And you start talking, and the person that you were just talking to said, you know what? Why don't I know someone that could connect you with this and connect you with this. So don't stop. Don't be afraid of thinking it's a small city. I don't know who we could connect with. Trust that when you talk to people and they will know how important and understand the importance of this, you'll be really amazed at the people that know someone or that have some other information that can really help you with this. You know, when you were talking, Priya, about systems, this is exactly what Cities Connecting Children to Nature did for us. It did create a system that is now firmly in place that isn't going to be dependent on Sue Stanley or Eman or the mayor that we have right now. They are breathing this in the community, and we are building stewards with our children, with our teachers, and with other community members about what is possible and what we can do. So next slide, please. We talked about the benefits. You talked about them. I can give you stories about it. When you talk about mental health for kids and understanding that this is a place that I can go, and I loved your example about solitary play. All of these things are just so important in the reality of what's going on with our children today. And I remember as a new principal thinking that I wanted a playground with a lot of cement, because that way, if the weather was bad, that the kids would be able to go outside and play. And we now understand and we welcome the fact that it's a little muddy outside, and it's great for kids to go and explore and to just enjoy everything. Academic performance, we can't show it on the test yet, but we're going to. I just know it because children are so much more able to focus outside of the distractions of what happened with technology and all of the other things that just are in that small classroom. All right, next slide, please. Right, and so a lot of the grants that we've been able to get are because of the climate change and the stormwater mitigation. We live in an area that has a lot of flooding. And so there have been grants that have been able to go along with that. So that can be our foundation. And while we say thank you and start putting things into action, we're also talking about all of the benefits that the schoolyards have and what more we can build upon for that. That free play and creativity, we know that that is so important, especially for our children today that have been overprotected and overstimulated, to let them just get outside and play. Next slide. All right, so she mapped it out, and that getting started, making the case. Once you make the case and you start with that vision and you think what it is, and I've got my long-term, what we knew we wanted at the end in Salina is we needed more trees, a lot more trees, not only for shade, but also to help clear the air, and we've clean the air. We've learned a lot about that. We also now have planted a prairie at the back of Salina. And the education that our students are getting and our communities and teachers are getting about the importance of bringing natural plants back and creating a prairie space has just really been phenomenal. Next slide, please. And it does improve the health and their well-being. Like Eman was mentioned, this is a community green schoolyard. So it's not just during the school days. It is a place where the community comes and they gather. And while they do that, they're feeling more comfortable about being outside. You know, it is about opening the doors for everybody, not just our kids. But it's also, when we talk about social and emotional well-being, it's getting to know your neighbors. It's finding an outdoor place to gather. And then we know all the other benefits that can come out of that. So next slide, please. Beautiful. This one says it all as well. And the engagement and the enthusiasm and just the joyful learning is something that we have been able to see hands-on and eyes-on with our students. So next slide, we'll just keep going. Our regular time outdoors, we have lunch recess, and then we also have 2 15-minute segments during the day where children go outside for recess. And again, that's just another thing with communication because parents worry if the kids are outside in the cold and playing. We've moved mountains with that. Let's get outside, let's play in the snow, let's create things, and let's be outside. Next slide, please. Okay, and I think actually Priya went over all of that, so let's go to the next one. And there's just been resources linked with all of these, so what you might not see in Priya's slide, we may have some different articles that you can look at because this is just all so research-based and exciting to see that this is really getting a front line and attention now because that creative play is so important. Our kids' lives are micromanaged all the time, and that unplanned time is really important. We know now, if you've read The Anxious Generation, that supports it as well, about with children being able to learn and why they need to be able to learn and they need to make mistakes. And that helps build their confidence in so many different ways. And the large trees to provide shade is just so important to get them outside, get them learning, and get them just sitting and even just sitting quietly in nature. Next slide, please. Okay, and we'll keep going on because I know that we are getting short on time. But you know, when we were talking about community partners, there are so many different organizations. We've been so fortunate to We align ourselves with Friends of the Rouge, Relief, and Julie, you can pop in with any of the other things that have created. We planted over 200 trees in this area, which is going to make such a difference for our community and for our children. Next slide. Gardens as learning spaces, enough said. I know we're preaching to the choir here. You can see it. And our kids, wow, talk about how excited they are just to think we're going to take our books and we're going to go outside and we're going to observe and we're going to learn. So I have to give a shout out to the DNR offices as well, because they offer really great classes for teachers to learn how you can take your kids outside and different things that you can do, and also for families as well. So that's another resource that I did not know offered as much for us as well. So next slide. Our garden, like I said, this was last year, and we are just so excited about doing this. And the kids are so excited. They come to school early. We open up the garden early in the morning and we have lettuce tacos, and they are out there exploring. And this is not anything that costs a lot of money. So this is a place that anybody could just get started. Get started with a garden, people come. And then you start talking about what more can we do? And this is exactly what we have done in Dearborn. We started small. We started having community meetings, and we shared what our vision was and what we wanted. And then it started coming together.
Sue, I
Next
love
slide, please.
the story you've told. Sorry to pipe in, but I love the story you told about I think Eman, you told it about the
radish.
the radish. That you were like, this was not a bunny. This was an elementary school kid sneaking some radishes.
It was. We pulled it out the first day, and you know what, kids, they don't understand about it grows underground. The big thing grows underground. So we were so excited. We pulled it out. It was right at lunchtime, and I ran and got a piece of poster paper, and I just wrote, "Look what grew in our garden." And I just taped this big old radish, dirt and everything, on this piece of paper for the lunch line for the kids to go through. And I came back after the rush of lunch, and I looked, and somebody had taken a big bite out of this radish. So that was a little child that just went up and looked at it and was like, "I have to eat this. I've got to try this." That's the other thing too, when we talk about nutrition. Kids are excited to try different things. So I don't have the research right now, but I can tell you by eyeballing it, our kids love what there is in the garden.
Yeah.
And they love to eat it, they love to smell it and taste it. So
You have the data. You have your data. I was going to say we're at time, but I want to see, I think you have a slide that has like the final version of where you're headed, right? Or any final.
yeah, keep going through, and these pictures will tell it. This is what it looked like. This is what our playground, we've already started on the kindergarten playground, and we're so excited to see that. And just the learning that's going on with that. Keep going with the slides, please. Yeah, we've got a lot of upcoming projects. So this is being transformed. And what's fun about this is the landscape architects that designed our playgrounds, they're speaking the same language too. They have developed these playgrounds that are developmentally appropriate for our kids, for the different ages and what they need to do, and for them to explore and learn and love. So it is our hope. We are not only building environmental stewards, but we are building children that when they grow up and they have children, they're going to see this as an important part of them as well. So that's our story.
Thank you.
Yeah, as Natalie mentioned, we have the anecdotal data.
Mhm.
Yes.
So the important data. So, really, as you're looking at the pictures, as you can see, it's something that really attracts children. It's not your typical, climb up the slide and slide down. It really, gets them to be more creative. And the kids need, I think it's so important right now, that social aspect. And it's really going back to basics. It's nothing new. Kids interacting with each other, learning how to share and play and get along, essentially. And as the slide, mentions, there's no app for that. You really just got to get kids out and about. And I think some of the concerns that Sue and I discussed before were some of the teachers were like, well, they can probably hurt themselves, right? there's sharp edges, etc. But at the end of the day, that's how they learn. That's how they learn how to navigate through things, right? Navigate through life, essentially. So it really is about, like, as I mentioned, going out and, going back to basics. And
Yeah, and one shout out for a really good book I did for a parent group a few years ago, and it's called The Blessings of a Skin Knee, and it's wonderful because it's part of childhood, and let's not deny them that.
mhm.
You're getting some kudos in the chat, additional resources. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much to all of you. Priya, anything else we should know about nationally, or anything that folks, other ways they can engage? Obviously, they should go visit Salina.
Yes,
Definitely.
you can obviously get as much of Salina and Sue and Jill Eman as you can. Jane Tesner-Kleiner on the call here is like another amazing resource out on the West Coast. I would just name that May 13th through 16th is Children in Nature Network's conference in St. Paul, Minnesota. But in 2026, I believe, we are slated to be in Grand Rapids. And so for anyone who's not able to join us this year, just keep that on your radar, probably May of the following year. I don't know the exact dates. We would love to see you there, and you can dive in a little deeper. And the other thing I would just flag is that the whole field, like many organizations, many partners, some years ago in 2017, wrote a Green Schoolyards Action Agenda, just thinking about a vision, a shared vision of every public school ground being a Green Schoolyards by 2050, and what all would it take to get there. And so a really powerful action agenda was written. And this year, that field is coming back together to celebrate all the progress that's been made, all the successes in places like Dearborn and elsewhere, but also to think about, like, what are current or newer opportunities and barriers that need to be included in that agenda. So that's something else we're trying to engage the whole field on. And my contact information was up there earlier before. I'll just drop it in the chat. But if anyone is curious to learn more about that or wants to be involved and help inform how that gets shaped, would really love broad participation, because everyone has really unique local insights based on the work that they're doing.
Awesome.
And if anyone needs support in their schoolyards or in their parks, like with us, instead of reinventing the wheel, we had the support of Priya and her team, and I think our trip to Grand Rapids was really insightful and eye-opening, and really gave us numerous ideas on how to get started and what to implement in our green spaces. So everyone's welcome to visit.
Fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm not joking when I say these are some of the best people out there. So soak up all this knowledge, and thank you for all the work you're doing for our kiddos in the world. Everyone have a good, safe rest of your day. Thanks for making time.